Lovely. Let's go. Okay, so as I said, camera shy's, turn it off. And if not, I'm gonna start with the second webinar of the day. Okay, so we are here joined by Sophie Pryce. And as you can see on the screen, she's the main person or the lead person behind this Living Well in Later Life Worcestershire branch of the Positive Aging Project within ICOPE. So it's almost like those Russian dolls. There's a big project, a smaller one, a smaller one. And also Olivia, that is a Senior Community Development Officer. And they are here to introduce themselves a little bit because they came to work in this project on the 1st of April, April's Fool's Day, and it's a pandemic. So it might be that you recognize these two from previous endeavors from other work areas, but maybe not with this hat on. So over to you, Sophie, if you want to add any other words.
Great, thanks, Lorraine. Shall I kick off? Brilliant. Thanks all for joining us today. It's really good to have you on board, and hopefully we can make some good links going forward. I know I already have seen from the list that I know quite a few of you, but this is a good opportunity to make new contacts today. So as Lorraine said, I'm Sophie Pryce. I'm Positive Aging Project Manager, and my colleague is with me today, Olivia Toye. She's the Senior Community Development Officer for this project. We're based within Public Health at Worcester County Council, and we'll be using the name Living Well in Later Life Worcestershire for this project. The project is actually one element of the ICOPE initiative, ICOPE being Integrated Care for Older People in Worcestershire, which was created by Dr. Maggie Keeble. And this is a 3-year project which aims to promote active and healthy ageing for older people across Worcestershire. So very much about keeping people active in later life. As we know, that can have a significant impact on a person's ability to undertake simple daily activities in later life. So increasing and maintaining people's independence and reducing their need for social care services is one of the top priorities of this project. Okay, next slide.
So hello everyone, I'm Olivia, as Sophie said. We thought before we jump into really the details of the project, it might be nice to have a little look at it in the frame of the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, we started to launch a project in what we thought would be a very different landscape. So really, since starting, we've seen that the COVID and the lockdown and has really given this project even more reason to be important for older people. So I've just kept a couple of points in here, really. The first one is, as we can see from Brian Sloan, CEO of Age Scotland, that we know, and I'm sure many of you know as well, that lockdown brought an abrupt end to things like exercise classes, walking sports and outdoor activities. It became increasingly difficult for older people to stay mobile, and we all know the negative impact a sedentary behaviour can have on health. Secondly, here's a piece from Digital Inclusion Leeds. COVID-19 has highlighted levels of exclusion and demonstrated how vulnerable people without a strong support network are even more at risk of not being able to access support and services if they cannot access the digital tools. Anecdotally, we've also seen on the flip side an increase of use of digital devices by older people. Yes, it may have been forced in some ways because they couldn't get out and about, but we have seen more older people picking up online shopping, banking, video calls, online messaging, and obviously when the initial part of the lockdown started, many organisations like Active took actually their offerings online, so virtual exercise classes. And a final thing really that we can just link into is sort of the nationwide campaign that Public Health have developed, moving on from COVID, which is actually encouraging exercise and activity in the over 40s, which really is just the nationwide push to increase activity levels and improve that health post-lockdown. And I mean, I for one as well know that I definitely didn't do as much activity as I probably should have during lockdown.
Yeah, I think a lot of us got really sort of on the bandwagon with Joe Wicks, didn't we, to start with, and everyone was very keen to do as much exercise at home as possible, but whether people have managed to keep that up is another question, isn't it? So yeah, okay, so this slide, we actually carried out a survey with some over 50s residents in Worcestershire a couple of months ago to find out what living well in later life really means to them. And this list here, you can see, it's actually listed in the order of the top priorities that they felt was most important to them. And actually that's brilliant for this project, because obviously this project is about keeping people physically healthy and active for as long as possible. That was the top one. So physical health, fitness, mental health, obviously incredibly important. Time with friends and family. So they are the top ones. So it's really interesting to get that feedback from people to see what living well really means to them. I think that's really important to us going forward with this project. So it's just a little experiment there to see what really matters to people. So it was really interesting to get that. Okay. I realise there's an awful lot on this page here. We've just picked out some facts and figures really about ageing well. I'm not going to read them all out. You can see them there for yourself. But one of the ones that really sticks out in my mind is actually on the top sort of right-hand side, which is common decline of fitness starts at 30 and accelerates more rapidly after 45, which can be made worse if a person lives a sedentary lifestyle. And for those of us who are in our 30s, 40s, beyond, that's quite a shocking fact really, to think that if we don't get our act together and start moving, then things are only going to get worse. It does lead to a loss of muscle mass. And one of the other ones that I do like to point out is between 2017 and 2035, there's projected to be an increase in the numbers of people aged 65 and over who are unable to manage at least one domestic task on their own. And that, again, is a key point with some of the things that we're going to be talking about with the aims of our project. Okay, but we can make these slides available as well for anybody who wants to have these after the presentation. Okay, shall we move on? So our project plans. So we are going to be introducing the life curve, which I'm going to explain very shortly, and also Living Well in Later Life Worcestershire website. We're going to be working with partners to introduce the life curve across the county. So we're going to be working with healthcare, county council, care providers, housing providers, voluntary sector, and so on. We've got interest right across the different sectors to be working with us. So we've got life curve and website, which again we're going to talk about very shortly. But also the second, a really important thing we're going to be doing is developing a series of resistance bands pilots. I'm sure everybody knows what we mean by resistance bands, and the stretchy bands that you use for exercising. So we're going to be developing some pilots and assessing the benefits, improving muscle strength and functional ability. So that's really exciting. And we are hoping to start that probably in January. So we've got a little bit of time now to actually plan who we're going to work with, how we're going to do that, and the monitoring and evaluation of this project, which is really important. And especially in this time, again, as Olivia was saying just now with the lockdown, this project was created before COVID existed. We had no clue that we'd be launching it now, sort of since April, and we are living in a very digital world, and that's very much part of this, but we want to make sure people aren't digitally excluded, so that's something we'll be working on. And again, with resistance bands, obviously a lot of groups, we would be normally working with groups who are meeting to do this, but we will still be working with people at home, people through video, through tutorials, through booklets, and we'll be reaching them in every which way that we possibly can, really. And also, yes, we'll be launching a multimedia campaign that you'll be seeing soon as well. Okay,
so I'm just going to talk you through a little bit around the key messages that we've sort of decided to run with. And obviously we will go into more detail about the life curve and the sort of finalities of the project. But really, to promote the project and to promote all the things within it, these are the key messages we went with. So living well, so making sure people have access to the health and well-being information they need to live well. Understanding your life curve and how to maintain or improve your position. Keeping active in later life with advice and exercise tailored to your own ability. And connecting with local activities, services and resources that support you to live independently. So you can just bear those in mind sort of as we move forward, and as we begin to see campaigns come out around the project, they will sort of be in relation to these key messages. So before we talk a little bit more about the life curve, we want to just bring it back to basics, which I think links quite nicely with the work that Active do, and also probably the webinar they did this morning. So keeping active and why it's important. Obviously, we know that it's important to keep physically and mentally active and in particular to slow down something we call age-related functional decline, which Sophie's going to touch on more in relation to the life curve. But obviously here we've got the UK Chief Medical Officer guidance for physical activity for adults and older adults. And I think a lot of people, and apologies if we're preaching to the converted here, but a lot of people don't actually know what these are or can be quite shocked when they do come up. So just to recap, aim to be active daily, doing at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity, which when you're working from home and not leaving the house can be difficult. 2 days or more a week do strength exercises that work all major muscles. And for older adults at risk of falling, should also do activities to improve balance and coordination on at least 2 days a week.
Just to say, based on the audience that we have right now, we're not going to go into saying what is moderate, what is vigorous, and things like that, because we covered that this morning. But if you do have the question, that because you were not here this morning, I'm just going through the attendees, then obviously just write in the chat and we can raise that at the end.
Thanks, Daria.
Okay, it's back to me, isn't it, Olivia?
Yeah.
So life curve, so what is it? I'm going to show you a graph in a minute to show you exactly what it looks like, but the life curve is a self-assessment tool. It helps you to maintain or improve your independence and functional ability. So this, the assessment, you can do it on the app, on the website, you can do it on your smartphone, on your tablet or on your computer. It's very easy to do. So the user basically carries out this quick assessment which plots them onto the life curve and gives them a position on that curve. And based on the assessment, the user will be given a set of exercises or activities to do, again, which will help either improve or maintain their position of functional ability. But also the great thing about the life curve is that this is specifically for Worcestershire. So we will be signposting to all the relevant local community services that are right across Worcestershire. It's tailored specifically for this county. For example, strength and balance classes in Bromsgrove will support provided by Age UK, but it's not just about sort of fitness and activity. It's about other things that resources that people need, for, money advice, for example, housing, all of that sort of thing. There will be lots of advice on those local services on the life curve. And also we're saying about obviously making sure that we're not excluding people. This assessment can be completed by the older person. It can be completed by a family friend, a family or friend, a carer, or a younger person again who's interested in future proofing their body. So anybody can do this assessment for anybody else. We want to make sure that we're not excluding anybody. Okay, and here it is. So this is exactly what the curve is. So you can see there's a list there on the left hand side, and these help you to work out, basically these are the questions that you'll be asked to assess what you can and can't do. So there are actually 4 fitness and strength questions at the very beginning. So most of us, if you happen to do this right now, you wouldn't be on the curve because most of us can hike, we can do a brisk walk, get up off the floor, we can walk a mile. So if we happen to do that assessment right now, we wouldn't be plotted onto that life curve because we don't actually need that support. But one of the first signs that you do actually need support is if you can't reach your toenails to cut your toenails. That's one of the first signs that you actually are in need of some help. And obviously those questions go right down through from being able to go shopping, walking a long way, heavy housework, cooking, getting dressed, right down to sort of not being able to wash and eat independently. So the curve starts at the top, it goes down at the bottom. You can see there's a curve, a sort of greyish curve at the bottom there, and we'll come onto this in a bit, and that's where somebody is declining very rapidly, and there's a blue line at the top which curves around. And so what we want to do is to enable people wherever they are on that curve to move back up the curve so that they are sort of able to be independent and to stay at home, be fit and well for as long as they possibly can. Okay, so that's the curve.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the self-assessment. So there are a couple of different ways, as Sophie mentioned, that you can carry out the self-assessment. So the user can carry it out on an app, and this app is called the ADL Life Curve app, and it's from the company who developed the Life Curve software. And so you can do it via the app, so smartphone, tablet, or via the website. But we will have our own Worcestershire branded website, as we mentioned at the beginning. So we wouldn't advise people to sort of access it via the website now. That will be part of the package that we have and that we are promoting. So as Sophie mentioned, it's a quick 19 questions around your physical abilities. The user will be asked then to create an account if they want to track their progress and keep their their guidance that they've been given in an account, essentially. But you can actually try it out as a guest. So if you wanted to have a go at answering the questions on the live curve with maybe clients in mind or an older family member in mind, you could, just to see sort of where, you know, the advice that they might give you. And we will, of course, be providing step-by-step guides on how to carry out the assessment and set up an account. And we do think it's important as well, just to mention here, around sort of data security. Obviously, the user will be sharing their point with us, their plot on the life curve, and also their progress and the interventions that they choose to undertake. But there are anonymity options, so somebody can remain anonymous if they want to, and of course full privacy information will be available at the time of when we launch it all. So this is what it looks like when you go through the app. Obviously, it would depend on your position and your outcome, the sort of exercises that you would be signposted to. But essentially, here are the fitness and strength points that Sophie was discussing. So this person is saying no, they're unable to hike a few miles. So it's quite, you know, it's accessible, it's easy to read, it's quite a simple format to go through. So that would be followed by the further fitness and strength points, and then you would go on to the main self-assessment questions. In this particular example, a person has selected no, that they can't go shopping. And because that's the one they selected no on the life curve, that's their current position. So they would then be, the user cannot go shopping without assistance. So then they would be signposted to interventions that could help them regain the ability to go shopping. So you can see here that there's arm curls, or there's a standing stretch with the idea of building up the muscle strength in the arm for a person to be able to carry shopping bags themselves. So that's a very simple example. And obviously, if you are interested, we would suggest having a go at the life curve as a guest, or save your own progress, of course, as well. But yeah, we just thought that's a little snapshot that you would see if you were doing it from the app. And just where Sophie mentioned linking in with local activities, if I just jump back quickly one actually. So where we get these tailored exercises to regain ability to go shopping, this would also be where somebody might be signposted to a local service. So obviously that's linking into connecting in your area. So we're working with our colleagues at the council and other organisations to really map out those district-based offerings to make sure that there is cohesive. And obviously we've got really brilliant tools in the county already from Like Active's search that they have. So we'll always be signposting to the professionals as such with some things, but we just want to make sure that people are aware of and accessing the things that are in their direct community. So here is, as Sophie was referencing the life curve earlier, we just wanted to sort of give a bit of a case study for in a residential setting, because obviously the life curve can be used when somebody's at quite a different level of ability. So this would just be an example of a participant, a user of the life curve who was living in a residential setting. And as you can see from their initial position down here, that they're actually quite far along the life curve already. So they cannot get dressed, or they're struggling to get dressed. So you can see Emily lives in a residential setting. She carried out the life curve, a self-assessment with help from residential staff, and her initial position was getting dressed. So with encouragement and support from staff, Emily carried out regular life curve seated exercises. For example, seated chair march or hip walking. And I mean, obviously this would be alongside other support and care, so that is something to remember. This would be quite an example of somebody who probably did have a care package in place, but just so you get the idea of what the life curve has achieved in the past, and we hope to achieve. Over time, she saw an improvement in mood, confidence and ability. So Emily's next self-assessment, approximately 12 months later, shows how she has moved back up the curve. And she can now carry out a full wash, improving independence and reducing the need for care hours.
And that's a really good example of, sorry Olivia, butting in there,
you go.
Of somebody who's really progressed there over a 12-month period. I mean, that's not a long time to go from somebody who needed an awful lot of support right down the bottom of the life curve, who's moved up to that current position. And that quote there, "I was helpless, I couldn't do anything, I'm much more capable now," is a real quote from somebody who's actually gone through this and actually used the life curve. So I think it's just a really good example of a success, really, of the life curve. And so we're really looking forward to bringing this to Worcestershire and to getting some real life examples and some case studies of people who have been able to really improve their independence and health.
I think it's important also to say here, obviously we'll be working alongside the residential care settings or our VCS partners to see how best we can fit the life curve into the sort of wellbeing practice they've already got going. So it won't be a sort of one fixes all. We really want to work with our partners and see how we can really ingrain it into what they're already doing with older people. Okay, I'll just move on to the next slide, Sophie.
So just to kind of recap really about the benefits. So obviously we're looking at improved wellbeing for older people and those who are supporting them. We've already talked about the self-assessment. Anybody can complete that for somebody else. It's about increasing activity, enabling people to do things they perhaps couldn't do before. You've got one point of access to resources. So as we said about the resources, we're mapping those across the county. Tailored activities, and we've got insights into the life curve and their position, so we'll be able to plot really, as you saw on that previous slide, where what somebody's ability was to where it is now, which is really important for us. It's a unified system-wide approach to promoting active and healthy ageing, which is something that we haven't had in Worcestershire before, and of course overall it will reduce the demand on services and social care costs. Okay, next. So just to move on to the other really big element of the project, so we're going to be purchasing, as you can see, thousands of branded resistance bands. When I say branded, they'll have our ICOPE logo on them. And we want to be really working with 25% of the over 65s population in Worcestershire. So we're going to be running some small pilots over the 3 years. So with resistance bands, we'll be assessing the benefits in improving muscle strength and functional ability, because as we know, using resistance bands, this is a resistance band exercise, so it will improve muscle strength. And obviously we'll be promoting it as a self-motivating tool as well with all sections of the community. So we've been talking again right across the sectors for the last few months. We've got lots of interest with who we're going to be working with. You can see that's not the whole list really of who we're hoping to work with, but that's just some of the people that we're hoping to work with, the different organisations. And obviously this will include, as I briefly mentioned earlier, people will be getting the band, but they'll be getting a booklet as well. There'll be sort of chair-based and standing exercises, video tutorial. We're going to be working really closely with Active on this, use of video conferencing. Of course, in this time with COVID, if sessions aren't going to be able to be happening in a group setting, then we've got Zoom, we've got different ways of connecting with people now. And of course, we'll be measuring people's progress and looking at things like a grip test, a timed get up and go test, in order to measure people's progress, but not just that. We want to measure people's well-being. We want to see whether they're feeling better, whether they're happier in themselves as well. So lots of different things to think about there. As I said, we haven't actually started the assess. We're looking to start from January, and we'll be talking to our partners now in the next few weeks to organise and start really planning those pilots and how we're going to progress with that from January onwards. Okay.
That's a whistle-stop tour, really, of everything that we've got planned. But yeah, any questions? Or
yeah, that's it. There's our little email address at the bottom there as well, if anybody wants to get in touch on that. And that's our presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Sophie and Olivia. We can possibly turn the presentation off, and then you appear like all the people's faces there. Remember, if your face is on camera and you ask a question when you unmute yourself, you will appear on the recording. So again, I can open the floor, let's say, for people if they got any questions.
This is where we realise everyone's on mute.
Yes. I'll give you there. I did have a question actually, because you mentioned about the app that you can take some retests. So obviously on the case study, we saw the retest was after 12 months, but a recommendation as to like how often people could retest, or do you recommend people should retest?
On the app, you mean, on the life curve?
Yes.
Yeah, on the life curve, yeah. So you could retake the self-assessment. I mean, really, it was when you would start to see benefit in the activities you were doing. So I sort of every 3 months, if you were regularly doing activities, you might be able to start seeing some improvement. So that particular example, there was probably multiple life curve assessments within that time frame, but that was just from the beginning to the end.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm open to the floor. I do have another question in case, but yeah, not all very quiet.
They're very quiet, aren't they?
So we've got the afternoon lull.
Yeah, feel free to pop in the chat bar.
Yeah, and also
if you don't want to speak, or get in touch with us afterwards as well.
Yeah, do email.
Richard has unmuted himself, so yeah.
Who's doing the analysis for the pilot scheme?
For the resistance band pilots?
Yeah.
We've got a very esteemed colleague actually on this call at the moment, so in the name of Derek. So we're hoping to be working very closely with the University of Worcester. Yeah.
So, okay, good. No.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So I have another question then. On some of those statistics, you said some decline happens from when you're 30 onwards, and then a little bit more rapidly when you're 45, which is probably around the age that we have on the call at the moment. And you mentioned as well that it could be that the Life Curve app could be for younger people that want to like future-proof, which I like that term as well, their bodies. You said your questionnaires were for 50 plus, but when would you say that, you know, we should like start maybe suggesting to people, you know, take these Life Curve app assessments to maybe realize that there are some bits and bobs that maybe suggesting that your performance is declining a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, with this project, we are looking at working with older people over 50s. But I think it's really important to think about keeping active, as we said with that fact and figure that came up earlier. And with this project, we're not just going to be working with older people. We're going to be well, the aim is to go into education, to talk to schools, to talk to younger people, let them know what we're doing, let them know about the Life Curve and the resistance bands, let them know about the exercises that we should be doing, and actually make sure that it becomes a habit for people when they're younger, so that again they are future-proofing their bodies, so that as they get older, get to 40s, 50s, that they don't have the issues that they might have. So obviously we're talking about sedentary behaviour, which again a lot of people will have impacted more with COVID and the lockdown. And as we know, with sedentary behaviour, that does lead to an increase in a risk of falls. It leads to an increase in frailty. You know, if we're more sedentary, then we're opening ourselves up to obesity, to heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, all sorts of problems. But not just that as well, it's also about mental health. So it's really important for us to keep it fit and active in order that we, avoiding things like anxiety and depression that we all realise that can lead on from not having exercise in our lives. So
okay. Any more burning questions? I hope that people are still like listening to us and they just haven't turned off and went away. As you know, like obviously we are the active partnership for Worcestershire, but also Herefordshire, and I'm appreciative that we have met perhaps colleagues coming from next door county. I appreciate it's going to be slightly different, but how could we maybe think about replicating something like this, or maybe initiating some conversations to replicate this in Herefordshire as well?
It's a very good question, isn't it? Because yes, obviously this project at the moment is just for Worcestershire. It's a 3-year project. Obviously, what we want to do is we want to prove that we are impacting on people's lives in a positive way. This is a positive aging project. It's about healthy aging, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have monitoring and evaluation. We have that within the Life Curve with the insights that we'll be gaining. We'll have that with the monitoring evaluation we have from the resistance bands. If we can prove that this project is a success, which I'm determined that we will, then there's every chance that this project may be extended and maybe possibly extended into Herefordshire. I think it'd be really great if we could. But watch this space on that.
Yeah, there we go. Mandy, you have a question?
Yes, please. Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Obviously, the Life Curve is something that's wider than just Worcestershire. So I'm just wondering what the kind of impact has been of its use in other areas of the country. I know you gave us an example of an individual, And I know it's all self-assessment reported, but what is the kind of progress and impact that's been shown in other areas?
Do you want to take that one, Olivia? Because we've
I'm
got
happy to jump in there. So I'm happy to, again, I can circulate some links. There's some really great evidence that's come out of some a really big pilot that ADL and LifeCurve did in Scotland, actually, with the government up there, and alongside allied health professionals. So they used the LifeCurve as the self-assessment to see whether or not the work that the allied health professionals were doing was having benefit. They did look at some more specific things, such as older people with verbal communication problems as such, but actually what they saw generally is that, one, it gave them a universal assessment, essentially, that they could use with people across the whole of Scotland, essentially. And I mean, on the whole, they got positive results out of it. So I do think that I think I'll share, if you're happy for me to share the details with you, like, that would be great. And I think there was also a case done, and we can also share this one with yourselves, with a care home in Worcestershire. And they saw, and this is actually what we took the case study from. So it was an extra care setting where they had a cohort of residents do the LifeCurve, and they actually saw quite significant reductions in care hours needed. In some cases, it was up to 15 hours of care. Less per resident, because actually as you look at the LifeCurve, you see some transferring to toilet, getting dressed, washing yourself, those sorts of things that might seem not too connected, but I guess once you've started to build up that muscle mass, you do one thing and the other thing starts to become a bit easier. So yeah, happy to share the results with them for you.
Just yes, for the benefit, in case people are not checking the chat, we have a question about an older adult that is in the late 80s. Is this adult too old to use this product?
Not at all. No, we want to help people of every age, up to hundreds if possible, because there's no reason why. And again, with that LifeCurve, we're going to be working with people in care homes. We're going to be working with people who do have very limited mobility. There's no reason why we can't help them from there back up to those who are, as we said, just about not able to cut their toenails. We want to help everybody. Yeah.
Any more questions? We have Richard is asking, if you don't mind, I ask on your behalf, Richard, how are you going to recruit participants for the pilot scheme?
Yes, so one of the first things that we're doing with the LifeCurve is we're going to be working very closely with Worcester Association of Carers. So they're going to be asking, and as many of us know, they've got thousands of carers across Worcestershire, so they're going to be asking them to do the LifeCurve, and possibly then for them to do the LifeCurve with the people they're caring for. But
sorry,
yeah,
was it the LifeCurve or the resistance band you were referring to then?
Which one was it? Resistance bands?
It doesn't actually say resistance bands either.
But again,
well, it was the resistance bands, really, because into the pilot, but both are just as interesting.
It kind of cuts across both, really. If we go back to the slide that we had earlier with the resistance band, it did show a big list of a lot of the people that are interested in getting involved with this. So we're talking about sort of physios, for example. Again, Worcester Association of Carers. We're hoping to work closely with Active, Age UK. So we're talking about sort of hospital discharges. And again, we've had because we started in April and haven't been able to properly take off yet, we've had the luxury of being able to talk to all of these different organisations and across the sector. So yeah, we've got a lot of people interested. And we're talking about small pilots here, and those pilots will be for around about a 12-week period. So small groups of people for 12 weeks with different exercises that they'll be doing maybe a few times a week.
So are you looking to have a menu of exercises that is delivered,
Yes.
and the same type of exercises, so that you can monitor the effectiveness of?
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
All will be revealed soon with that.
I'm sure.
And Mandy, I see you just asked about GPs. We are in contact with sort of PCN leads and such, so we'll definitely be filtering that information out as and when we can.
Absolutely.
So in order to roll out this program, Sophie or Olivia, is there a role for instructors or activity providers to actually support you in this?
Yeah, there absolutely is. and we'd like to have an element to sort of train the trainer here with regards to sort of passing on, if people don't already, I mean, some already do things like resistance bands exercise already, but yeah, we would like some help with people to to help their sort of residents in care homes and sort of housing providers, all of that sort of thing, so that they can help us to deliver this project, because as I said, we're buying thousands of bands. We want to help thousands of people across the county. We can't do it just ourselves. We do want to work with as many people as possible, and those experts and activity coordinators, definitely.
Yeah, so we got a question from Hayley from Rachel Bronsgrove that said, can we help by signposting strong and steady participants? So strong and steady being the fall prevention program.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be perfect. Brilliant. Yeah, and any kind of exercise classes that are already going on would be great. Any new ones that people are going to be setting up, and that would be great. Any that are online that you know of that are that are still going on or about to be set up, then we'd like to get involved in that as well.
And obviously, part of the work we are doing at the moment around the sort of community engagement side of it is that we know that a lot of services have changed the way that they're working, or that they're functioning, or that they're delivering since COVID. So we are trying to get the whole picture at the moment and see actually what is being offered where, because X and X exercise class in Village Hall somewhere in rural Worcestershire might not be up and running again, but it also might, and it might not filter back to us. So we're really keen to know what's going on within your communities or the communities you work in. So just do get in touch with us via email if you can think of anything that might be sort of a good fit with either the life curve or the resistance bands. Yeah, it's very much community driven.
Yeah.
Anybody else with any questions?
The Life Curve app, are we able to signpost people to use it? I work as a lifestyle advisor in some of the GP surgeries, or do we have to be part of the pilots to do that?
So the life curve is actually accessible right now. You could get somebody to do it right now, but obviously we're developing a Worcestershire package, and we would want somebody to create their account and they would link with our Worcestershire package, and that's how all of the signposting options would then become related to Worcestershire for them. So you can access it now, but we are, as soon as we launch with our Worcestershire, we would hope that people like yourselves, especially wellbeing advisors, lifestyle advisors, we'd really love it to become a tool that you can use actually within your work.
Yeah, great, thank you.
And it'll be ready to go in a few weeks' time. So we'll be shouting it from the rooftops as soon as we go live.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of a technical question with regards to the localized information that the app can offer. That we, as Active Herefordshire and Worcestershire, we have an activity finder, and we pull the information that is being set as open data. Is that on the Life Curve platform also going to be relying on open data to get all those activities?
No, it isn't. But I think what's really important for us to say now is that you guys are the professionals, you're the experts in that realm. So we wouldn't want to be replicating what you're doing. So as much as we would signpost to the fact that there is strong and steady, say across the county, we would be signposting to yourselves and your activity finder for people to get the most up-to-date and relevant information. And that stands for quite a lot of things as well. Like we obviously wouldn't be replicating all of the information that the local AGUKs or we're going to make sure that we're going to signpost to the most useful resources. And I know that for some people that can sometimes seem like an extra step, but as we are sort of all digital now, that's we know that you guys that's your area really, so we wouldn't want to come across that and muddy it at all.
Yeah, I think obviously data is a very sensitive subject sometimes about like how much you share, etc. And obviously people can do this anonymously, but any benefit that if I allow you to have my data as Lorraine, is there any benefit to me as a user that could, I don't know, put me in the front of the queue, or I don't know, some sort of benefit?
I think the benefit for the user really in being able to track their progress is to see how they've improved and to have access to the interventions that they've been signposted to, and the improved well-being. Really, the benefit for us is that we can evaluate that and we can understand then at what point interventions and support increase people's well-being. So that's really the benefit for us to understand that picture a bit more. And also it forms off of where we can develop or where gaps might be. If people are accessing a particular resource time and time again, maybe we need to look at that and we need to think that needs to be developed into something bigger, something wider. And the final thing really is prevention. So we can start to see where people are accessing or they are sitting on the life curve, and we can think maybe how we can put in preventative measures earlier on. And I guess really the only other thing, the big benefit is this is quite an innovative project, really, a digital project working with older people in this way, and we want to be able to share the success of it. You know, fingers crossed for success. We want to we want to evaluate, and we want to be able to share that.
Okay, thank you. Mandy did just said like student volunteers can help to support this.
Fantastic. Yeah, and if anyone wants to get in touch with us afterwards, please do.
Any other questions out there? We've gone for 45 minutes already, which is really good.
Wow.
Happy to see colleagues from, a GP sort of area like Emma and Hayley from district councils as well, like joining us.
Yeah, we're really keen to sort of speak to people across all different sectors, working with all different types of older people in different settings. So, this is early days for the project still, even though we have been held up slightly by COVID. Get in touch, definitely.
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to go with one question because it's itching, and I just want to ask, how would the app react if, for example, on the 6th question, I said I cannot do that activity? Would the app stop me asking questions further down? Or what if I'm on question number 6 and I cannot do that, but I can do question number 8? How would that work?
So I think the way that they have developed the life curve is that the different markers are called activities of daily living, and this is developed on years of research, years of data that often they go in that particular order, but you answer all the questions still. Because if you think it's the things that are the most likely to go first, you would say no, but you would still be able to, because cutting your toenails is the first sign. So you might not be able to do that, but the curve goes down essentially. So you would end up at not being able to fully wash yourself. So you would really be able to do those things as they got on. But it can be a bit of a funny one to get your head around. That's why I'd suggest having a go on the app. The first time you do it, it will ask you if you can't do something. It will ask you for how long you think you haven't been able to do that. Subsequently, after that, it doesn't ask you that. But I'd recommend just go on. You can try it as a guest.
Yeah.
ADL life curve, and just sort of have a play and see.
And actually, if anyone's got any comments on that, if they do have a play around with it, do feedback to us, because we're still, going to be developing our Worcestershire website with life curve. So any comments or suggestions, do let us know.
Just a consideration. So if I am doing the app and for some reason I tick like I cannot wash myself, is there like some sort of thinking towards like safeguarding in the information that you provide to that person, as to maybe checking in whether they have a carer, whether they need a carer or anything like that?
I mean,
Go on, Sophie, you go, sorry.
Well, we are listing all the resources available, including adult social care and all of those elements as well.
Yeah, and I think there's actually, we'll have a big sort of a localised mapping session as we're developing our site, and that is sitting down with the key people in the room, so adult social care, public health and main VCS, medical leads, to sort of say, okay, at this point, the local intervention for this person is X, and so we can signpost them to X. And I mean, obviously, somebody who is unable to wash themselves, if they aren't in a situation where they're being supported with some care already, then obviously that would raise as a red flag. But we would expect probably for that person to be receiving some level of support, or be in some sort of setting where they were having support to carry out the self-assessment. There's another question in the chat box.
Yes, we have a question about what you think or what you suggest is the primary target audience. Are we looking more as preventative measure, so trying to pick up the people that are on top of the curve or the first steps, or we're looking more into later life where, you know, maybe just like more of a decline there.
Yeah, we're not being prescriptive about that at all, really. We just, as I said, the aim is to keep people active in later life, so that, you know, looking at people, increasing and maintaining people's independence, reducing their need for social care. That goes right across the board. There's no specific age, but it's just about maintaining and improving your health, your activity, your independence, and no particular age on that, because we know you can be in your 80s and 90s and be quite fit and active, and you can be in your 40s and 50s and not be very fit and active. So we wouldn't sort of prescribe on that. So it's really right across the board.
Okay, so I think we're gonna finish there with that positive of like, let's keep everybody active and you know, hopefully wait for those like 90-year-olds to put us to shame, like we're still running at the rate and we're still making excuses to leave the house.
We look forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's been really interesting to know a little bit more about it. Hopefully we'll have a go. You know, whether you're part of the age group or not, I think it could be interesting just to see how it works, so then you can advise your parents, your grandparents, or anybody around you.
Exactly.
And as you say, maybe try to increase that network of organizations or different bodies in the county to collaborate with you. I think we will send the recording with the slides, as some people have requested them, to everybody who has attended. And yeah, I think if there's no any more questions, thank you everybody for turning up on this first day of experiment of doing a webinar.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
There we go. So thank you, everybody. And yeah, take care and stay safe. See you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.